Okay, so this is going to be a long setup, and then we're going to do the story, and I'm going to tell you the aftermath. And I will tell you, there's a good chance you've heard of the DooLittle Raid. You might not know what it was. You've heard of it. I bet you money you don't know anything about the aftermath. And I bet you might see the DooLittle Raid a little bit differently after you hear about the aftermath. You ready for that? Buckle up. This is not supposed to be done on radio, but I do whatever I want. So here it is. You know these things, so I'm going to buzz through this fairly quickly. Japan was, for the longest time, it still is, but a very insular country. Very insular. We're talking 1500 to 1700. If you went to Japan in 1505 and then went there in 1705, it would look almost like the same country. Very little technological advancement because they didn't really believe in that. You'd still see people in robes and samurai swords and the whole works. Really, really cool, but not really technologically advanced. Then America kind of spurred this whole thing on. We showed up in Japan, and keep in mind, this is still hot and heavy in the colonial era. We showed up in Japan with warships, cannons, and guns and stuff like that. The Japanese are sitting around with swords, and we said, hey, we'd love to trade with you. And they said, nah, not really interested. They were super anti-Christian and stuff back then, too. You know, get out. Well, they still kind of are, but get out, Christians, that kind of thing. And we said, no, you don't understand. We're going to be trading with you. We weren't asking. We're going to be trading. This is a short version of this, but this is kind of what happened. Japan, they start looking around at the world, and they realize smaller tribal peoples are being conquered and colonized, period. End of story. Whether this is Indochina, French, you know what is Vietnam now? Whether it's in Vietnam to the Indians in America, all across the globe, they're watching colonial powers take over less technologically advanced tribal powers. And so, and as a response to that, believe me, this is all leading up to Doolittle and Pearl Harbor and things like that. In response to that, they did what's called, you should honestly get a book on it or watch a documentary on it if you're not a reader, something called the Meiji Restoration. Meiji with a J, by the way. The Meiji Restoration. And what it was, I have never seen anything like it in the history of mankind. I'm sure there are similar things. I've never seen them. Japan just simply decided, okay, we're a little backwards technologically, but we want to keep our traditions. We have cool traditions, but we can't be backwards. If we stay backwards, we're going to get dominated. We're going to get colonized. And I would like to stay Japan. So you know what? We're changing. We're getting advanced. And they just did it. They just took people and they sent them all over the world. They sent their ambassadors all over the world to learn, okay, how do you make industry? How do you do guns? Military tactics that aren't samurai swords and bows? No. We want to do what you do. We want to be advanced. And they went to the best places in the world and they adopted their stuff, took it back to Japan. And because the Japanese people are a fascinating people anyway and fascinatingly diligent, they just dug in and started doing it good, in some cases better. And all of a sudden, boom, Japan is modern. Over a short span of time, they go from nothing to modern. And now something happened. And this is the best way I can describe this. Let's say you're weak and unable to defend yourself. All right, you know what? I'm going to focus on dudes here for a second because ladies would probably think about this a little differently. If you're a dude, let's say you're weak and unable to defend yourself. There's never been your lot in life. And you get picked on a little bit. You got a bully at work or school. And you decide, I've had enough. I'm going to make myself better so I can't be picked on anymore. And so you start training and training and training and training and training. And it doesn't take long, I should note, if this happens to be your situation, to get very, very competent fighting. About a month or two of real professional training, not your stupid karate class, but real professional fight training, and you can beat up most people on the street. So after a month or two, you're ready. And all of a sudden, you defend yourself against that bully. But let's say you're not a great person morally, and you keep training and keep training and keep training, and soon you figure out, man, not only is that guy not beating me up anymore, I can beat up anybody I want. In fact, I think I'd like to take that kid's lunch money next to me. Well, that's kind of what happened with Japan. They got so good and advanced so fast, but because of their economy, which just got modern, they were gobbling up all their natural resources, and they look over the ocean and they see China. China, at this point, is low. They don't have any more emperors. Now China's in a civil war between the nationalists, Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalists, and Mao and the communists, and there were other communist leaders, but Mao ended up leading. But China at this point in time, they're in a civil war. China's kind of technologically weak too. Not as weak as Japan was, but certainly not advanced. And Japan's thinking, I wouldn't mind some of that. They do have some national resources we could use, and guess what? They can't stop us. Japan moves in. They start conquering in a very benign way Japan. All this stuff took place long before Pearl Harbor, by the way. We think of World War II as either Hitler invading Poland or Pearl Harbor. The Japanese and Chinese were killing each other a long time before that. Anyway, fast forward. Japan makes a home in China. We, America, and Britain both had especially Britain, had heavy financial interests in China. And we didn't like what Japan was doing in China, and we decided to tell Japan, okay, you need to stop. And Japan said, okay, well, you can go pound sand. And we said, no, you need to stop. And Japan said, no, you need to pound sand. And we said, Japan, you know all that oil and steel and stuff we send you? Because America sent virtually all of their oil and steel, because sadly Japan has none. Japan said, yeah, what of it? We said, okay, we're going to stop sending that to you. That beautiful Navy you've built, guess what those ships are worth without any fuel? Nothing. They're not worth anything. We'll stop sending everything. We'll cut you off. Japan got what it thought was in an impossible situation, and they did the dumbest thing in the history of the world. That's going to be Pearl Harbor. I'm not going to spend any time on that. I'll spend 30 seconds on that when we get back, and then I'll get to the DooLittle Raid response to that.